Hey, it's Lost in Plot. I'm solo again. And well, we got to talk about it. We got to talk about Ghostbusters Afterlife. Let's talk about what this awful trash movie is really about. So here we go again. What's the pitch this time? Because Sony's tried to reboot this after the failure that was the 2016 Lady Ghostbusters. What's the pitch this time around? Well, this time it's Kitty Ghostbusters, it's Teenage Ghostbusters, it's Ghostbusting for the whole family, really. So the story centers around Phoebe and her family who've just been evicted from their home and discover they've inherited, a spooky old house out in the middle of nowhere, a town called Somerville, a very small town, poor farming community. So they go to live there and discover they are inheriting an amazing legacy that's full of secrets and ghostbusting. So that's where we're at. We're off and running. It's a very curious decision for rebooting this property. I can't tell you where it came from. It seems out of left field because it is out of left field. But before we get into how awful this film was, let's talk about Ghostbusters for a sec. So the original Ghostbusters was made by the comedic talents of three men. That's Harold Ramis, Dan Aykroyd, and Bill Murray. They were the engine that drove that car. Okay, and if you think of the premise of exterminators hunting ghosts, that's kind of the rest of the car. But those three guys, those are your engine. So what's going on this time around? Well, you've got the premise back, right? You've got the premise, but you've got it without the engine. You've got the car without the engine. And that's what we really have here. We've replaced the three comedic legends with nostalgia. They can look like Ghostbusters. It can sound like Ghostbusters. They can try and talk and walk like it is, but it just flat out isn't. So let's talk about the characters here. I mentioned Phoebe. This is kind of her story, and she's an awful character. She is awful. She is a child prodigy, even while her mother is unemployed, and her brother is just some kind of dopey teenager who tries to get a job in fast food, which is interesting because his mom's not even trying to get a job, even though she's got two kids and she's unemployed. Anyway, Phoebe is the child prodigy. She is a genius solely by virtue of who she is, who her family is before her. She can tell you about seismology. She can tell you about nuclear engineering, astrophysics probably. If you give her a minute or two, she could probably fly you the Millennium Falcon because she is absolutely a Mary Sue. She has all of these great talents and abilities, and that kind of makes her odd that she likes science so much. So that's kind of the story arc for this character, whose really only development is to realize how awesome she is just the way she is. So she's an awful character. Next, we have the character Podcast. His name is Podcast. So guess what he does the entire film? Podcast. Yeah. Okay. Then we have the older brother who really just falls in, gets a crush when he wants to get a high school job at a burger place that's somewhere out of the 1950s for some reason. They're all wearing roller skates and doing the drive-up thing. Where did that come from? Where did this whole town come from? It doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, he falls for this girl, and it's all about him trying to get her, and she's all too cool for school most of the film, so anytime she opens her mouth, it's just kind of a witty retort. And that's the dynamic we've got going there. We've got the unemployed mother, and we've got Paul Rudd in there, who's kind of the summer school teacher, who's actually very into seismology, but he's a garbage summer school teacher. We're all coming together and discovering this myth about the Ghostbusters, and then we're kind of off from there. So all of these characters suck. The thing is, they're all trying to act and be funny in the way that the original Ghostbusters were, but that first film was just a bunch of comedic legends improvising their way through it. So what do we get here? We don't get any good characters. Is the story at least good? We at least have a good story that's going to add to the lore of ghostbusting. We don't even get that. What we get here is awful fan fiction. This is a horrible story. Just bad all the way through. There is nothing new. In fact, once you get to the halfway point, or definitely the third act, all the plot beats that you're seeing are some that you've seen before. You've seen them all done before. They're just done with new characters. We're just swapping out and recycling something familiar for you, hoping that You're going to be excited enough, and that's all you really want and need to enjoy this. And I think for a lot of people, yeah, that's fine. I mean, Thanksgiving is coming up. If you want to take the family and just see this and you don't really care that much, then, you know, I'm sure a lot of people will still go see this and not really care. But for everybody else, I can't say much good about this film, this awful fan fiction of a film that just kind of swaps in these characters to replace the old ones and completely misses, I think, the premise of what made Ghostbusters good and what was so kind of quirky about the concept, right? Is like you've got these three comedians that are actually supposed to be super smart scientists, and they're hunting ghosts, which is also ridiculous, and they know it's ridiculous, so it's all kind of tongue-in-cheek the whole way through, but they play it so well and they're so charming that, you know, that first film flies by, whereas this one has none of that. And I'd also argue that it's poorly done, it's poorly directed, poorly scripted, and very poorly paced. Like, this is boring for a lot of it. It's just dull and bland when it should be fun. Even those moments when you think it's going to get fun, because the reveal should be fun, aren't done well. They're done very poorly. So we don't even get that. The only good thing I think I could say about it is the sound. It sounded great. Good job on the sound mixing. But other than that, this is a film that doesn't really need to be in existence. There was no reason for making this. Okay, there's no real theme or message behind it. They kind of shoehorn in the, you know, the trope of, well, be yourself. Be yourself. That's kind of the theme for this, which is odd because all they're trying to do is be the original film. But that's where we end up with Ghostbusters Afterlife. It's as dead as anything can be dead. It's dead, and it's a 2 out of 10. I thought this was awful. I don't think there's anything here to like. It wasn't funny in the slightest, and you could play the concept, you know, more straight without any of the jokes or the laughs, but this is kind of having it both ways and not giving us an interesting story, just recycling the old story, but in a new location with new characters and less comedy. That's it in a nutshell. So there you go. If you like this review, make sure that you like and subscribe, because we're going to be back with more reviews, films, TV shows, basically anything with a story. Check us out on Twitter, and we will see you on the next one.